Thank you for the open scope you left me with the title of my presentation. Then I thought to myself, well, what would make most sense to talk to you about? And what I would like to do this morning is to establish a link between the Future Horizon Europe program and the work you do in the college. Because I see very many points in common, and many points we will be able to take up in the new program. And this is what I would like to talk to you about today. Now, sorry, Now, the structure of the presentation. First, the place of social sciences and humanities in Horizon Europe. Secondly, the SSH integration, the cross-sectoral approach you have also been dealing with in your project. And thirdly, how can we create and assess societal impact in the new program? Now, the place of social sciences in Horizon Europe. And I must say that when you will be looking at the slides, in between the presentation of what the Commission has made in summer last year and where we are now, things to a certain extent have considerably changed. But I can't include them yet in the new slides because they would still change, and as long as we haven't got an official agreement, I have to stick to formally to what has been presented. Which I think the main goals and the main aims and the way to implement will still remain the same. And just to recall, what we want to do is to strengthen the EU's scientific and technological base. We want to boost our innovation capacity, and we want to deliver on the citizens' priorities. Now, this slide, to the ones who are familiar with Horizon 2020, you will see that this is an evolution, but no revolution. What do I mean by that? We've got our three pillars. The first pillar with the European Research Council, more or less the same as in the past. The second pillar, well, there is a change in the name. Well, we switched from societal challenges to global challenges because we now are aware that it is not only Europe which is faced with these challenges, but this is something we need to tackle at a global level. And the third pillar deals with innovation, and there a new element there is the European Innovation Council. And what the French call un pilier couché is the part here at the bottom of our slide. This is the European research area and also the support activities for research. Now, these are the things which are common with the current program. But what are the new elements there? We want to put an emphasis on breakthrough innovation, and that is the reason why in the new program we will set up and we will deal with the European Innovation Council. Secondly, what you see there in red is that we will deal with missions which are big goals to which we will put considerable money, and these missions will have a longer duration maybe than even the program in itself. There we want to pool resources from all our different areas in order to achieve what we would like to do. We are now in the phase of negotiation for the 4 first missions, and we have not yet decided what the themes will be. This is right now in the making. Then we would like to strengthen the international dimension of the program, because it is not only the Europeans who can deliver. I think it would be very good that we can rely and tap into the knowledge and the know-how of other regions of the world. And next point, and I think we have already touched upon it yesterday, an open science policy. We can't restrict science to scientists. Of course, they are the ones to deliver, but in order to tackle these societal challenges, we need to have this regular exchange with our, what we call in Eurojargon, stakeholders. I mean, the policy shapers and makers, as well as the citizens. And they will need to develop ways, platforms, how we can do that. And I know that you've made very concrete proposals also in your project. And we need to have a new approach to partnerships. Let me just mention that in the current program we've got some 120 different partnerships, which is quite useful, but there is a risk that they are scattered around the landscape. And what we need to do is to rationalize and to have more focus in what we would like to do. Here you could see we do an impact assessment with the current program in order to see what needs to be, what works out well and what needs to be changed in the future program. And there, with the new clusters, you will see them in a moment, we want to really break the classical boundaries of disciplines. And we want to go for interdisciplinarity. We want to engage all actors in the co-design and co-creation. And we would like to better align with the rest of the world. And you see here, when I say rest of the world, this is not meant in the negative sense, please. And here on the right-hand corner, you see then the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Now, let's have a look at these clusters. And in the beginning of my presentation, I mentioned that things are changing. And I think what is changing most are the titles of the different elements of the program. And they are currently changing quite considerably as far as this cluster 2 is concerned. Let me just take the one which concerns us most, inclusive and secure society. In the Commission proposal, we wanted to put these two things together because security and inclusive society are two sides of the same matter. In the negotiations, and I think I do not unveil any secret, Parliament as well as the Member States want to separate this again, and it is very likely that we will have in the future two separate clusters, one dealing with inclusive and creative societies and cultural heritage, and the other one with secure societies. When I say secure societies, it is not defense, but it is all which is related to home affairs and these elements. In the inclusive society, we would still have an aspect of security, namely the prevention of crime and the prevention, for example, of violent radicalization. And there are also attempts to split others, but we will then see in the end what will come out. And just to mention to you what is happening now, the Commission has made its proposal, the European Parliament has tabled its report and its position on the framework program as well as on the specific program, and the Council has reached a general partial agreement on the framework program, and we are now entering into the trilogue discussions between the Commission, the Council, and the Parliament in order to find compromise positions. And I was just now wondering to myself, if someone comes from the outside and listens to me about trilogue, about general partial agreement, I think it will really be very difficult to follow these things if you're not initiated to these procedures. However, I wanted to mention it to you because some of you at least know very well what this is about. Now, as far as inclusive society is concerned, we've got several challenges, and one relates to democracy and lack of trust. The other one is the jobs of the future. There, 14% of our jobs, equaling 66 million jobs, are highly automatable, and therefore risk disappearing. We will later on be able to discuss this further, and I should also point to the rising inequalities. I will take this up a little later in my presentation. In the democracy area, we would like to deal in particular with how can we restore trust, how can we strengthen democratic institutions, and what is also very important, to develop a positive narrative about democracy. In the cultural heritage, this deals with the protection of cultural heritage, but not only with that, there is material and immaterial cultural heritage, namely also our traditions, the way we perceive things, this is part of it, and in the negotiations, also owing to the European Parliament, we will establish a strong link between cultural heritage and the creative sector, design and all these things, to build a bridge between the past and the future. And then of course we've got our big social and economic transformations, just the rise of inequalities, or what are the jobs for the future, what skills do we need, this will all be dealt with in that. Now I've switched it off, sorry. Thanks very much. Yeah. Now, the integration of social sciences. We've just finalized the draft of our most recent report on the integration of social sciences. Now the question, why do we do this yearly report? Well, it's very simple, because we have a legal obligation in our program, therefore we have to deliver. Secondly, why do we integrate social sciences? For the very simple reason that we see, if we want to deliver results, if we want to have an impact, a technical approach only doesn't do it. We need to combine the technical solutions with the persons, the individual, the society, which we need to put at the center. Only if we have a combination of this, we will be able to really have an impact that counts. And the integration of social sciences is a precursor for a much broader approach as far as cross-sectoral cooperation is concerned. Yes, and then we, of course, do an assessment in a quantitative and qualitative way. Yeah, so we've got now the new the new report, and let me just mention here that for the first time we've taken a very not only the social challenges in pillar 2 of the program, for the ones who are familiar, you remember the table with the 3 pillars I've mentioned, but we have now also assessed the contribution SSH makes in the Research Council, in the Marie-Soros for Career Actions, research infrastructures, and future emerging technologies. And you can see the discrepancies between the future emerging technologies and the research infrastructures, maybe 6.7% and almost 50% with the future emerging technologies. But what is most striking to me is on the first bullet point, where you see the European Research Council with 23%. This is a bottom-up approach. And to me, this is a telling element of what the potential of social sciences and humanities would be for the entire program if we didn't have other limitations to it. Now, how did this develop in the last year? For the FLAGT, SSH FLAGT projects, we had a budget in 2017 of almost 1.2 billion. And within the FLAGT projects, 272 million went into SSH research, which is a percentage which is almost 1/4, which is, I think, quite okay. And as far as societal challenge 6 is concerned, which is, let's say, the focus area for SSH, we had an increase from 70 million to 85 million. As far as the quality is concerned, we also have a slight increase. Let me just mention that, how do we measure the quality? Well, we do this with a proxy. It's a combination of 4 criteria, namely the share of SSH partners, the budget going into SSH, the person months of SSH partners involved, and the contributions of SSH of at least 2 separate disciplines. It is a proxy. It gives you an idea of the quality, but we need to further work on this. For the time being, for the remainder of the program, we will not change this, because if we change it, we will then have not the overview from the beginning until the end, but we are now discussing for the new program what we will do. Now, the conclusions on SSH integration. We have an obligation to integrate it, we have an obligation to monitor it. This has led to positive results, as SSH is also a precursor for a much broader cross-sectoral approach. We have now reached a stable level in quantity and quality, but we also have a feeling that with the present rules we have reached what we can do. We now need to see what we can do in the future. Now, some of you might be familiar with the flagging. In the work program, we've got topics, and the ones where we need to have SSH expertise in it, we flag them. This is an obligation. This is the good thing and the bad thing. The good thing is that we identify what is important for SSH. The bad thing is that if there is SSH on it, it does not mean by definition that SSH is in it. Then, because you don't have an obligation to have SSH expertise in it. And this is one of our big shortfalls, and we need to change this. So what do we want to do in that respect? We would like to have a more holistic approach as far as SSH is concerned, already from the very beginning onwards, when we start writing the work programs, the calls, and the different topics. First, and you see this here in the third bullet point. The second one would be that in the projects which are flagged SSH, that we also have an obligation that SSH expertise should be in the consortium and in the concept for the project. And that also in the evaluation and selection of projects, we include SSH expertise. Now, it sounds very simple, it will be rather difficult. Now, we need to do this in a meaningful way. First thing is, we should not have a proliferation of SSH flag projects. We should only flag the ones where it really makes sense. This is one thing. The second thing is, in our current evaluations, per project, we have approximately 3 evaluators. Sometimes it will be difficult to have one specific person to deal with SSH only, but we need to see in what way we can include SSH expertise in the selection and in the evaluation. And these are another big discussions we're having. I move on to the last part of the presentation, and this is social impact, how to create it, and how to assess it. Just to recall where we stand in our global competition with the European research. Well, with 7% of the world's population, we contribute to 20% of global R&D and to 1/3 of all high-quality scientific publications. So this is the good news. The bad news is that the closer we get to the market and the closer we get to society, less impact we have. And therefore, we need to tackle this problem. This looks familiar to you because this you have already seen earlier on. Let me give you one example as far as inequalities are concerned and what the challenges are. Since the late 1980s, we had a regular increase in our GDP. At the same time, we have a regular increase, of course, with some bumps and some gaps. We also have a regular increase in social transfer payments, and we have an ever-growing gap as far as inequalities is concerned. So that is to say, it is a paradoxon, but something we really need to tackle, not only for the wealth, not only for the income, but it is now affecting the social glue of our societies, and it is affecting the participation in political and democratic life. The evolution now, as far as impact assessment is concerned, you will see on the left-hand side, and I spare you going through all these elements, but then we've had a reasonable start in Horizon Europe with our 55 key performance indicators, but 27 of them are focused on management, many of them related to publications, to intellectual property rights. But what we need to do is to go for not only output, but for impact, and less management, but more content, and also to go for narrative. This sounds very simple, and is one of the most difficult things to achieve. Now, so what are the lessons we've learned from the current program? We need to be more specific. We need to be able to tell a story at any point in time when we are asked where we stand. We need to have realistic indicators, and we need to distinguish between the short, the mid, and the long term. Of course, we need to simplify, and we need to make a better distinction between the management indicators and the performance indicators. In the new program, we will deal in particular with three specific areas of impact. The scientific impact is the creation and diffusion of new quality knowledge, skills and technologies. Societal impact is the impact research should have on the implementation of policies and the take-up by industry and society. And the economic impact is the take-up and the strengthening of market deployment of innovative solutions. Just to give you an idea of the different impacts, and on the left-hand upper corner, so this is certainly not an exhaustive list, but there you will see quality of life, you will see creative activities, and you will see public engagement. And what we now try to do is to create pathways to impact, and here you see the societal impact, where we need to address the policies and priorities and deliver benefits and impact for our missions and strengthen the uptake, which I mentioned earlier on. I will give you one concrete example of that, namely what we call our pathway number 6, strengthening the uptake of innovation in society. And the storyline there is that we should strengthen this uptake of innovation in society, and this should be shown by the engagement of citizens in projects and by the take-up of scientific results. You then see the three different indicators split into the time frame. After 1 year, one can, for example, see the number of projects where EU citizens and end users contributed. After 3 years, you could see the share of projects where this engagement has led to new mechanisms also others can apply. And after 5 years, this is normally after the end of the project, you can then see what in the end has been the real take-up. The timing is really important. The short term I've mentioned, mid-term as well. As far as the long term is concerned, we need to find ways to be able to assess the long-term impact, which we are not able to do now, because there is an EU payment until the end of the project, and once this is over, we lose more or less track of what will happen afterwards, but the real impact you can only see then. And I'm almost at the end of the presentation. For the impact, we need to have a holistic approach, and it's quite similar to what I've mentioned as far as SSH integration is concerned. We need to think about the impact we want to achieve from the strategic programming down to the project itself. And in return, to assess this impact, this must go from the project to the different projects in one call, and then put it together in a work program in order to see what the overall impact is. And for this, we need to have indicators, and we need to have a narrative. And from what I've seen, the most difficult thing to do there is to have a narrative to explain this. This is one of the big challenges. We are at the beginning of this, and they will still need to work. Now, there's still a number of question marks related to societal impact, but let me also recall that this is something relatively new. And what we do together with your project and other projects working on this, we are really there in the front line of defining something new. Of course, we might make errors, and we've got now also feedback of what works and what does not work in Horizon 2020. But the big challenge now will be for the next month to further define this in a meaningful way. And I would be very happy now in our discussions that we can discuss how we can go about this. And to conclude, let me just recall one quote from Milton Friedman, who said that one of the great mistakes is to judge policies and programs by their intentions